So one of the really interesting things about asthma is that it's influenced by a range of factors. So we know that if your parents have asthma, you have an increased risk of having asthma yourself, and the same with brothers and sisters. But if your mother has asthma, for example, that doesn't mean that her children will all have asthma. So that there's a strong genetic factor and family risk, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if your parents have it, that you'll have it. In addition to that, there's a very strong influence of the environment. And so what we probably have is that some individuals have an increased risk of developing asthma through, for example, their family genetics. But then depending on what they're exposed to, both as during pregnancy and then in the very early part of life, but then throughout life, depending on what they're exposed to and the triggers and environment that they see as an individual, that might move someone who's susceptible from being asthma towards or in fact away from having asthma. So we do understand that. Of course, after that it gets very complex because each of these environmental exposures has a different impact on that genetic risk, and they all work together. There's the immune system and all of those other factors that can play into that. So it becomes very difficult to prevent when you look at, for example, a family with 3 or 4 or 2 children, which of those children might have asthma and which won't, even though they have the same genetic inherited, because they might inherit more from their mother or their father and probably a similar environment that they grow up in, but the risk plays out very differently. And so that makes it both interesting and complex, and also difficult then to talk to families about, what this might mean for their children, or for those people who develop asthma later in life, what that might mean for them and their families.